Did you get a 3D printer for Christmas? Well, I hope you did. I got my very first 3D printer for Christmas 2014. And so I'm going to tell you a little story about how I went from getting my first 3D printer to starting a YouTube channel. I hope you like it. I'm Joel, and this is 3D Printing Nerd. It all started Christmas time in 2014. In front of me was a large wrapped box, and once I got the wrapping paper off, I found out it was a FlashForge Creator Pro. My wife and my kids found one on sale on Amazon, and they got it for me for Christmas, my very first 3D printer. Oh yes, big hugs for everyone. And here it is. This is my FlashForge Creator Pro. It's a dual extruder machine with a heated bed, fully enclosed, running Sailfish firmware, and it came with 2 spools of ABS material, one of which I happen to have still. Hey, it stays. My first print off this machine was a dual color traffic cone in red and in white. It was an example print to show off the dual extrusion capabilities of the machine. I know it's just a simple sample print, but oh my goodness, I loved that traffic cone. I really don't know where that traffic cone ended up. It was my very first 3D print, and I shall treasure it forever. But that wasn't the end of things. Of course, with the included spools of red and white ABS filament, I printed all sorts of things. For example, I printed a better feeder tube holder for the FlashForge Creator Pro. I printed some drumstick holders for my kid. I printed a red guitar. I printed this dice tower. And of course, I printed some really awesome, fully functional Wolverine claws. The first video I took of my 3D printer in action is when it was printing a multi-piece Baby Groot in white ABS. I thought I'd shoot a quick video to show you guys the printer in action and to give you an idea of the sound that it makes. So this is a view through the top, and you can see I am actively printing something. You probably hear some fan noise, and you can hear the different motors moving around. We'll go through the front view. And there you can see the fans on the extruders. You can see the piece being built, small layer by small layer. I've got my layer depth set at 0.2 of a millimeter. Also, as you can see an example of what's called an infill percentage. You can see that the insides aren't solid plastic. The 3D printer uses a grid pattern and creates almost a square honeycomb on the inside to give it support and strength, but to use far less plastic than if it was going to be solid. There's my green mushroom, and there's a traffic cone I printed earlier. It's really surprising looking back how well that print turned out, considering it was one of my firsts and it was in ABS. The face on the Groot was smooth, and the hair on the Groot turned out really well, all things considered. Oh, but don't worry, I had my fair share of failures as well. I kept a cardboard box next to the printer where I could put all my failed prints, my rafts, my skirts, and my support material. Finding things on Thingiverse is fun, and we all do it, but a real sense of accomplishment comes when you're able to design something and then 3D print it. So my goal was to design a thing, and then print that thing, and then sell that thing. I wanted my 3D printer to make me some money. I thought, what might be the easiest way to design something that people would want to use and pay money for? And I ended up designing cookie cutters, and my very first one was of the poo emoji. I started out in Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop. I used Illustrator to create the vectors of the shapes that I wanted, and then I used Photoshop to extrude them to various heights in 3D. It was like using a sledgehammer to solve a hammer problem, but it's the tools I had on hand, and it's what I used. You use what you have. When designing this poo cookie cutter, I didn't want it to be a one-piece cutter because I wanted the sides to be cut, but I wanted the eyes and the mouth to make an indentation into the dough, so I designed it as 2 pieces. The outside cutter would cut all the way through the dough, and then the eyes and the mouth attached to a separate stamper piece could make indentations into the dough. It worked out really well. Obviously, I couldn't sell cookie cutters without testing them, and making a bunch of dough all the time just wasn't going to work. So I picked up some Play-Doh and I tested my cookie cutters in Play-Doh. I wanted to expand beyond emojis, and being here in Seattle, I created 2 cookie cutters for the sports teams, one for the Seattle Seahawks and one for the Seattle Sounders. And when I created one for the Seattle Sounders, there was a lot of detail in that cutter and stamper, and I didn't know if the dough was going to be able to hold that much detail. But once I stamped the dough and cut out the cookie, put it on a baking sheet and baked it, the cookies looked fantastic. I didn't abandon Thingiverse. I mean, I still pulled down models from Thingiverse and printed them, such as the Puzzle Bear or this really cool bow tie. I also found this dinosaur shower head, and oh my gosh, once you turned it on, it was great. I picked up a hose adapter from a local hardware store and I attached it to the hose. I put it into the shower head and I was able to test it outside.
Look at that! Look at that! Oh, that's awesome. Look at it. Ah! 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 Ah!
Finally, what really led to the creation of a YouTube channel was my want to create a GoPro camera rig, some sort of handle contraption that the GoPro would attach to in order to steady the shots. I was going to use OpenSCAD to design it, and then I would 3D print it. And the whole idea of that was great, and I thought, what better way than to show people the progress than with a YouTube channel? And that's it. That's how 3D Printing Nerd, the YouTube channel, was born. So look at that. My beginnings as a YouTuber here on the platform started out just because my wife and kids thought it would be awesome for me to have a 3D printer, and they found it on sale. And 3 years ago, that was, I believe it was $9.99 on Amazon. But now you can get printers that are less than $500, less than $300 US that do a good job printing. And you're not stuck starting with ABS like I did. You can start with PLA, which is really easy to print with, let's be honest. And then you can even move on to things like filled PLAs that have metals or carbon fibers, or you can move to PETGs if you don't want to go to ABS. The sky is really the limit. The price to enter has really come down. And if you don't have a 3D printer yet, there's a really good chance you'll be able to afford one really, really soon. And let's be honest, when you do get that first 3D printer, if you don't have one already, and you do start a YouTube channel, you're gonna let me know about it, because I'm gonna wanna see what you make, I'm gonna wanna see what you create, and I'm gonna subscribe to your YouTube channel. Well, again, Merry Christmas, and I really hope this video finds you well. I just wanted to give you a little insight into my backstory as to why I'm here and where I came from. A big thanks to everybody that subscribes, and if you are subscribed, please ring that bell to be notified of when really old but cool stuff is uploaded to the channel. And a big thanks to everybody that supports me via Patreon, YouTube Red, PayPal sponsor. And a big thanks for everybody that supports me via Patreon and YouTube Red and PayPal sponsorship and YouTube sponsorship and all of those various methods, and for letting the ads play. And finally, don't forget to hug each other more, because I love you guys. As always, high five.